Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Searle, and I'm Head of Relationship Management here at Headley Business School. It's a real pleasure to join you this morning at your virtual university open day. I'm so sad that I can't make it either in person or live, so this is recorded. The reason I can't be live is that I'm at a wedding in Norwich this morning and this afternoon, so I do apologise that this is a recorded session. I really hope that you do get as much out of it as you possibly can, and I'm delighted that I've been invited back to speak to you today. So as I said, my name is Matt Searle. I'm Head of Relationship Management at Henley Business School. So this morning, what I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to give you a little intro on me, not too much though, so you won't get bored, don't worry. And then I'm going to get into some of the key trends in the world of work today and moving forward, and just to set the scene a little bit for you for your open day. I'm going to talk about what skills might be more prevalent in the future world of work, and I've got some internal research at Henley to talk about, as well as some wider research from industry and a reflection on some of the conversations that I have on a day-to-day basis with industry experts in my role. So you're going to get a real mix from me. That's just the kind of person that I am. So I hope you enjoy that. And I'm also going to sum up and allow you to reflect on what you might kind of ask today when you're at your virtual open day, and a little bit about what you might do in the early part of your career, whether you go down the university route, the apprenticeship route, or straight into a role. And I'll talk about all of that as well. So who am I? So as I said, I'm Matt Searle. I'm Head of Relationship Management here at Henley Business School, and I work in the careers team. I've been here nearly 4 years now. And before that, I was at KPMG, where I managed KPMG student recruitment, marketing and operations. So I suppose to give you some context, I was responsible at the end for about 250 to 300 graduate roles into the London audit practice. So I do know a little bit about recruitment and a little bit about selection processes and assessment of early talent. Before that, I worked in the Global Chairman's office at KPMG, managing his meetings, events and conferences all around the world. So that was my background, events and marketing. In my spare time, I'm a trustee at Manchester Metropolitan Students' Union, which is great. And I'm a non-executive director at a small and growing management consultancy business based in Brighton. And when I have a little bit of time, I'm a keen cook, proud father, and aspiring rugby and cricket coach in Camberley. So, as I said, quite a lot of my day-to-day work is chatting to industry professionals about what's going on in the market. So I want to go straight into this slide that I've looked at from Hays, who are an agency that advertise hundreds of thousands of jobs every year. So they're a great benchmark for what's happening in the industry, and they do a survey every year. It's quite a famous survey of all of their clients. So, it's quite a busy slide, but I just want to pull out what kind of skills that employers are saying employees should be developing to progress their careers. So you can see here the green bar is what we're looking at, which is what the employers are saying. So they're saying it's all about communication and interpersonal skills, as well as the ability to adopt change and problem solving. And you can actually see some of the COVID crisis coming through here quite strongly. So, the ability to adopt change, as well as flexibility and adaptability, critical thinking, and a couple from the bottom there, the ability to learn. And I wondered if they've missed a couple of words off that. And I think it might be the ability to learn something new, given the very volatile world that we're currently living in, especially in terms of the labour market. So on the left-hand side then, just 3 reflections from me on this slide. So, you're really early in your careers. So you've got the opportunity to really practice and develop some of these skills that employers are saying that you really need to succeed. And you're at a university open day, so you're going to be hearing about so many different attributes of universities today, as well as the in curricular, the course that you'll be studying. But these skills can also be developed in extracurricular activities like clubs, societies, volunteering, charity work, even part-time roles on campus. So do you reflect on that when you're having your chats with some of the people a bit later today, and start to get used to telling your story. So you're going to be building up a bank of anecdotes, experiences, things that go really well, things that don't go well. So it's really a chance to begin to articulate that story and be comfortable in getting across who you are to someone that you don't know, i.e. Eventually someone who's going to be interviewing you or assessing you for a job. So some of the other trends that are kind of prevalent for me from the conversations that I've had, there's four. I'll put them all up at the same time here. So it's that ability to be flexible. So CEOs and CFOs, the people who are in charge of these large organizations, they're wanting to be able to move their workforce around to service clients in areas that need that resource the most. So for example, they want to, if we're talking about an accountancy firm, they want to move people from mergers and acquisitions that's been really quiet to corporate recovery, which has sadly been really busy, and moving out of the recession, that will probably go the other way around. So that ability to be flexible, adaptable is absolutely critical. And I think that's linked to ongoing education to really support people to be reskilling and even upskilling. So our corporate education part of the business school has never been as busy with team leaders and managers saying to us, we really need your help with reskilling these 30 managers who were in this part of the factory and now they need to be in another part of the factory and they don't know how it works. Please can you help us, for example. The other trend that's very on point, I think, this week, in particular, given what happened at Wembley on Sunday evening, was this real sense of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I think from someone who's worked in the industry now nearly 10 years, it's never been easier for people from any background to get any role that they're qualified to get in their own merit. So the playing field, I believe, is really evening out now, and that can only be a good thing for everybody. And finally, on this slide, I wanted to talk about apprenticeships and graduate opportunities. So I know you're at a bit of a crossroads right now with some of the choices that you're making with your lives. So I think, we're here at a university open day, but I think it's important to note that you've got a choice. The apprenticeship route is something that's being supported very heavily by government at the moment, as well as going into roles that are not going to university. So there's pros and cons for each route, and it's down to you to do your research to find out what's best for you. So what about skills and behaviours? We're going to look at three areas. We're going to look at some of my own research and findings, as well as my boss's PhD work around career dynamism. And then we're going to zoom right out and look at what are the World Economic Forum saying about skills and behaviours in the future. So I'm going to give you a little bit of internal information here as a bit of a spoiler. So we currently have about 60 to 70 students who are undertaking a year in industry. And about halfway through the year, as a placement tutor, I will go out, well, it's been virtual this year, but usually I will go out and see them in their place of work and have a meeting with their performance manager and the student themselves. We actually undertake a little performance review to see, which areas they're performing really well in and which areas they might need to think about developing in the future. So these are the 9 capabilities that we assess. I'll say assess in it's a very light assessment. So it doesn't count towards their degree or anything. But I want to pull out 2 here in particular. Top left, for playing noughts and crosses, is commercial awareness. So I do want you to think about that, and I'll get to that in a minute. And middle right on my screen, critical thinking. That's going to be a theme that's going to come very strongly through a bit later in my talk. So I'd like you to keep those front of mind if you can. So by going out and undertaking 60 or 65 meetings with experts who are managing our Henley students, that gives us a pretty good view of what our employers and performance managers think of our students' performance. So I can say, from looking at all of the data, I think it's about 500 data points, 500 or 600 data points, that broadly our employers have rated our placement students highest for their teamwork, for their resilience and flexibility, and their time management, which is great, fantastic. What's more interesting to me is where our employers are saying to us that your students are broadly fine, Matt, but if we were really looking to recruit them and to really develop them and help them be their best, the 2 areas that I think, the 2 areas that the data is telling us where they need to develop is critical thinking and commercial awareness. And I'll get to some interventions on that a little bit later. We also ask our students to rate themselves. So there's a bit of a self-reliance piece on this, to this as well. Self-awareness piece, sorry, to this as well. So our placement students have rated themselves highest for their teamwork and their time management, as well as their listening and interpreting, which is great. So broadly in line with what the employers thought. But look at this, the students themselves realize that they need to do a little bit more work and a bit more development around their critical thinking and their commercial awareness. And that's why I'm sharing it with you now. You're not even a Henley student yet. You might be next year. Hope you do consider us. But I just thought I'd share this with you now so you can kind of get in early and start to think about it. So self-awareness then. So we've got that comparison between what the employer rated the student and what the student rated themselves, which is always interesting to look at. So what it shows is that our students are much more resilient and flexible than they think they are. And I think that's probably down to COVID. So when these students were out, that was this time last year. So they were going through the crisis at its very, very peak, where it was brand new to everybody. It was nearly every single organization I spoke to were in crisis mode. So it was you obviously experienced that as well, being at school and college. So you remember what it was like. Commercial awareness and personal responsibility and impact. I've also looked at gender. So I've also looked at, how did our male students rate against our female students? And our employers rated our female students higher than our male students in all of the behaviors. By quite a long way, actually. So 38, nearly 39 to 35, which is interesting. But more interesting is how the female students rated themselves and the males rated themselves. And what this shows is that our male students rated themselves 35 out of 45. So really, I hope this shows on the screen, really, really close to this number here. But look at the difference here. So our female students rate themselves 34 and the employers are rating the female students nearly 39. So that's quite a difference, 10% difference in, even more than that actually, 12% difference in that rating. So that shows me that maybe there's something that we could do to empower our female students more and to encourage them to rate themselves higher than perhaps they think, which just is an interesting point. My own critical thinking skills perhaps shining through, or perhaps not. So just to conclude this bit then, are some of the thoughts that we're having include supporting our students more with their critical thinking and commercial awareness, and I'll get to what we've been doing in a minute. Celebrating that our students are quite strong on teamwork, and the female piece here. So just encouraging our female students to rate themselves higher in the self-reflection scoring, and reflecting ourselves whether we can do more when our outgoing students are going to employers. So could we do more around International Women's Day for our outgoing placement students, for example? So if we zoom out a little bit more to Pasha, so that piece that I talked through there, that's very internal to the business school. Pasha is my boss, so Dr. Pasha, Nima Pasha, works for Henley as well, but she looked out of the building and she interviewed 70 or 80 very, very successful people in their career a couple of years ago for her doctorate. And she found that the traits that successful people had in common broadly were around these three areas. So these successful people in their careers, they had a very strong results orientation. So they're very goal driven, number one. Secondly, these successful professionals had a really laser-like focus on building relationships. And thirdly, they were very, very resourceful when it came to, creatively thinking about how to resource certain projects. Okay. And all of that led to very, very strong career resilience. So some of the other attributes that Dr. Pasha found were within these people who were very successful were very, very strong networking and people skills. So they really had a strong network to call on and to support them. And they really understood how different people ticked. A real sense of openness and creativity. That's the resourceful mindedness piece. So they're very strong on ideas and innovation. A laser-like focus on achievement. So that's the goal-orientated side to a personality, as well as a real penchant for analysis and data. And it's not necessarily pulling the data together, but looking at the insight from that data. And there it is again, a real sense of critical thinking. And overall, what Pasha found was that although these people had mentors, they had supported managers in the past, people who were sponsoring them and supporting them, these people were driving their own careers. They were not relying on others. They were self-reliant on getting to where they needed to get to. So that's Pasha's research. And then we'll zoom out one more to the World Economic Forum. So World Economic Forum in Davos every year. If you don't know about it, look, you can have a look. It's where all of the movers and shakers from industry and politics get together. So they were surveyed back in 2020. And these 10 skills were the ones that were most prevalent for 2025. So only just 3 or 4 years away now. And you can see, I'm not going to read them all out, but they're broadly in 4 categories around problem solving, self-management. There it is again, that's self-reliance, working with people, and coming through very strongly here. I've not really talked about it until now, is this sense of using technology and development. So we already have AI, we already have virtual reality, we already have augmented reality. Staying on top of the technology that's coming through is going to be vital for someone that wants to really have a successful career. So what action might you consider taking today moving forward? And I'm going to just talk about 3 areas. So I'm going to start with critical thinking, because these are the areas that in the business school we found our students need to develop the most. So I thought I would just touch on these. So as you go through today, you'll see that, well, you may see that when you talk to your speakers about what they're studying, what they may touch on is some of the employers that are coming into the curriculum and providing case studies to them as they kind of look at the theory. My advice to you is to ask some questions about which employers are coming in, just to see what's happening there. And then when you're at university, do attend and do kind of build your network and really understand what's happening in industry, because it will help you understand the theory a little better. Ask why more often in your seminars. So when you're trying, just try and think why or why not, and be prepared to answer yourself why or why not, and always have a view, but always be respectful of a different point of view to yours. I think that's the key to critical thinking. Encourage debate, but do accept that other point of view. I think that's vital. In terms of commercial awareness, again, what you might see today is people talking about the course and what you're studying, but ask them what they do outside the course as well. I talked a little bit earlier about the ability to join clubs and societies, do some volunteering, undertake some charity work, etc., etc. There may well be some extracurricular activities that employers are involved with as well. So if you're interested, attend them, build that network, start to focus on your relationship management, because again, as Pasha said, that's a vital element of a successful career. In terms of media, my tip is to try to consume a real variety. So don't just read, what's already maybe in your environment. Don't just look at your own Twitter followers, for example. Try and look at the opposite point of view and try and really understand that. Look at different media sources, etc., etc. Because someone interviewing you might not hold the same opinion as you, and it's really important that you're able to kind of reflect on that and convince that person that you are commercially aware. And finally, I was just chatting to someone earlier about interview preparation. In some ways, it's never been easier to get information about a business or an organization. It's about firstly making sure that that information is reliable. So no fake news or anything like that. And really down to you to do your thorough research into that business. And the best research I've found is to talk to somebody. So again, it comes back to building your network, just for your future success. And finally, what about resilience? Well, I think it's about making the most of those experiential learning opportunities that we're going to get in the next few years of your life. Things probably will go wrong at some stage, okay? So it's about failing fast and pivoting quickly into something new, and really reflecting on what went wrong and what you learned from it and what you would or wouldn't do again. It kind of adds to your own story, doesn't it? About articulating when you've been through a challenge and what you've learned from that. That's a typical question you'll get asked at interview. We know that things don't always go well. It's all about how you react and what you learn from it. So in the long run, for me, it's all about purpose. It's trying to combine what you love with what the world needs, what you get paid for, and what your strengths are. So trying to find your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. And when all of those things align, then it's about purpose. Now, you might be really, really close to that now. You might be a million miles away. Everyone's on kind of a different journey with that. But ultimately, it's all about finding your purpose. So if you have that in your mind today, at least as an idea for the future, then I think you will make the most of your virtual conference and open day today. So I'll say thank you very much